defendant?
I did.
And what was your conversation with him?
I reached out to Alec and I said, Alec, hey, I don't know what all we talked about in that call, but at some point in time we talked about, I said, hey, I've got this email that's been forwarded to me by Vicky where your firm is saying that you believe you're owed more cost. I put the cost down on the disbursement sheet that you had given me. But if you've got more cost, just figure out what it is and get it to me. We're holding some money to deal with some medical bills and liens. And with the client's consent, we were holding some money in case additional costs come in. Sometimes costs are slow coming in, and that's normal. And if there's an issue, just let me know. He said, I'll check on it, or there's not an issue, or I'll check on it. And I said, hey, this is the case that I disperse the fees to you, per your request. Is everything all right? And he said, yeah, I just got to make sure they know it's on the books the right way, and that this is the case that we've already worked out, put it on the books.
Did he tell you he had structured those fees and annuities as he had told you before?
Yeah, that he had put them in the annuities.
Put them in the annuities. Firm's going to make sure they're on the books.
As far as I knew, the firm was aware that the monies had been paid to him, that he was putting them into annuities, that they would credit him as already having been paid, and they would account for that whenever or however they split up money.
Just to be clear, those funds were not in your trust account. They were gone at that point.
Yes, sir. They've been gone since March, or whenever those checks were cashed after I wrote them in March.
$792,000.
Yes, sir.
For purposes of this hearing, I'm not going to go into the night when Maggie and Paul were killed, but just very quickly, you did have some texts and calls with Alec that night. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were at the residence and responding as friends and family did in the aftermath of that event. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
After a few weeks after the murders, did you tissues?
I've got one.
You good? Take a second.
Fine.
You good?
Fine. Yes, sir. I'm fine.
A few weeks after the murders, did you have another conversation with Alec asking him if everything had been handled with the firm and those fees?
Yes, sir. I don't remember if it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks or what it was. I mean, everybody was destroyed. I don't think anybody was focusing on that. I know I wasn't, but at some point in time after that, I just said, hey, is everything all right with the contact I got him with those fees? And he said it was.
At some point in mid-July 2021, over a month after the murders, did Alec call you up and ask you anything about these fees?
He did.
And tell me what your conversation with Alec was about these fees.
He contacted me and said that he was not able to structure the fees the way that he thought he was going to be able to do, that he had messed that up, and that the fees needed to be paid to the firm, and they needed to go back through my trust account.
Okay. And what did you say at that point?
I didn't see anything that caused me any red flags or anything, and felt like if that's what had to be done, that the fees had to be paid to his firm and needed to go back through my trust account. He could send me the money, and I could run it back through my trust account and then pay it to his firm.
So he's promising, he's saying, I will send you the money back. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you ultimately receive any funds?
600,000 of the 792.
You only received 600,000?
Yes, sir.
And how did you receive that? Do you recall?
I think it came in two different wires, that either came on the same day or on back-to-back days.
Did one of those wires come from Palmetto State Bank for $350,000?
I believe so, yes, sir.
And that was on or about July 15th?
That sounds right, yes, sir.
And the other was about $250,000 on July 16th, 2021?
I believe from Bank of America, yes, sir.
That was only $600,000?
Yes, sir.
So you're short from what you'd already given to Alec, correct?
Yes, sir.
How much are you short?
$192,000.
$192,000.
Yes, sir.
Did you have a conversation with Alec about being short?
I did.
And what was your conversation with Alec?
He told me that he wasn't able to access the $192,000 immediately, that he had already put it into the annuity, but he couldn't do it the way he wanted to, but he couldn't access it because it would be penalized if it was withdrawn, and that he would get me the money.
So what did you do in response to what your friend told you to do, or told you about the reason why he was short $192,000?
I mean, at that point, I had an indication that I was supposed to have $792,000 in my trust account that was supposed to have been paid to his firm. I'm responsible for that trust account. I put $192,000 of my own money in that trust account to cover the shortfall.
Based on his representation that he'd get you back?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 349, states 349 for this in-camera hearing, and do you recognize that?
I do.
Tell me what that is, please.
This is an email that I sent to Alec at his request. He said he needed to be able to provide it to his firm so they'd know the money was being held, and it was dated July 19th of 2021. It says, Alec, as discussed, I'm confirming that I'm holding in trust $600,000 in the gentleman's case and $192,000 in the lady's case, which represent attorney's fees. I'll continue to hold these monies in trust until I am instructed by you, by you or your firm regarding payment.
You sent that email at that point in time. Did you receive any further inquiry at that point in time, at least, from the law firm saying, all right, go ahead and send us the 792?
Mr. Waters, I didn't hear anything else from the law firm at all until September the 3rd, 2021, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when Mr. Lee Cope called me. The first question he asked me was, why was I still holding $792,000 in my firm? That seemed to be his first concern, and I said, yes, I am. And he said, well, we need to get that money paid to us. And then he told me that they had discovered a check that I think I remember him telling me that was from me to Alec in the firm, and that they had discovered that Alec was stealing money from the firm and from clients, and that he could not talk very long, and asked me not to say anything to anybody until the following Tuesday when they could issue a press release.
Let me slow you down just real quick before we get there. At some point in time in August, did you attend any event or any conference where you saw Alec?
I did.
And what was that?
It's called South Carolina Association of Justice now. I still call it the Trial Lawyers Association. We have an annual convention in Hilton Head every August, the first weekend, and I usually attend and was there. And Alec was there.
Did you see Alec there?
I did.
And did you have any conversation with him at that conference about the $192,000 that you covered for him when he was going to pay that back?
I believe I asked him about it, and he indicated he was working on it. Some discussion about his father's estate. His father had just passed, and there would be money coming from the estate, and then with Maggie's estate being tied up, also.
Did he say he might sell some property or something like that?
I think he did mention that he was working towards selling some property.
At this point in time, still with a couple of months after the tragic murders of Maggie and Paul, were you still very sensitive to your friend's emotional health and well-being?
Sure. I didn't push him.
Didn't push it?
No, sir.
Some point after that conference where you asked him about it, didn't want to push him, did you have another conversation with him about when that money might be paid?
I believe I did, yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as states $350 for this hearing. See if you recognize that.
I do.
Tell me what that is.
It is a very rudimentary, handwritten, scratched-out promissory note that I asked Alec to sign for me, which he did August 17th of 2021, acknowledging that I had loaned him $192,000 that he would repay within 60 days, I think is what it says.
And tell me how the circumstances of how you came to get this, essentially on a folded piece of paper. This is a copy of it, right?
It is, yes, sir.
All right, tell me about it, please.
That was more about, I wanted to get repaid my money as quickly as possible, but that was more about, I was concerned, just like everybody else, everybody in his firm and everybody in his family, that he was going to do something to himself, that he was going to kill himself. And, I knew enough to know that that I couldn't make a claim against his estate if there wasn't something in writing. And so that was more, I went to him and said, Alec, look, I hate to even ask this, but I need to ask you to do this in case something happens to you. And I phrased it like if you get hit by a car or something, but it was more about worried about what he might do. And I need to ask you to do this so that if there's a problem, I can deal with it. And he did. He didn't have a problem with it.
You already said this part, but at some point a few weeks later, you get a call from Lee Cope asking about those fees and saying that Alec had been stealing money, right?
Yes, sir.
That hit you like a thunderbolt?
It knocked me down. I was with a group of guys. I could not talk. Lee told me he could not talk very long. I didn't know how to react.
Did you try to get in touch with Alec?
I did. I couldn't do it immediately. I think I spoke to Lee for just a minute. He told me I needed to call him right back. I called him back. We talked for just a minute. He couldn't talk long. He said he had other things to take care of to deal with all of what was going on.
Do you remember what day this is?
September 3rd, Friday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
2021?
2021. Yes, sir.
You remember it like it was yesterday?
I can tell you exactly where I was and who I was with.
Tell me more about what happened.
I finished up what I was doing with that group. I think I tried to call Alec, or I know I texted him, and I believe I tried to call also, and I couldn't get him.
Okay. Did you continue to try to contact him?
I did. I think he did respond maybe that afternoon later and said, I forget what it was. It was in a meeting or something. I'll call you back as soon as I can. But at some point in time, I kept trying to get him, and we did talk later.
All right. What did you talk about? What day was that when you finally were able to talk to him?
I think I did speak to him that evening, this Friday, September the 3rd, by phone. I don't remember the exact of the conversation, but I said, look, Lee's called me and told me what's going on. What is going on? And he said, I really can't talk about it much right now. I said, I need to talk to you, and I want it to be in person. I need to know what's going on. And
what happened next?
Well, he said he would try to meet with me the next morning, and that he was sorry. And I don't remember all the gist of that conversation, but the next morning I tried to call him. I woke up and I started driving towards Beaufort because I thought he was staying at John Marvin's house down that way, and I started calling him and driving his direction. And eventually he called me back and said he would meet me in Alameda at his mom and daddy's house.
Did you meet him there?
I did.
Was that in the morning of September 4th?
Probably a little bit before lunchtime, kind of late morning, yes, sir.
Did y'all have a conversation?
We did.
Where was the conversation?
I got there before he did. I don't think I pulled in the driveway. I kind of waited out on the road. Pulled in the driveway. We went in the side door. The caregiver was there. We went out onto the front porch, and we talked on the front porch.
And what did he say to you?
The first thing I asked him was, Alec, what the F or what the H is going on here? What is going on? And have you done something else to me or that involves me that I don't know about? Because I know about this, and I've got to deal with this. But is there something else you've done that I don't know about that I need to be concerned with?
And what did he say?
He broke down crying. Said I can't right this second. He went inside, came back out with some paper towels, and told me that he had a drug problem, that he was addicted to opioids, and that he had been addicted for, I don't remember if he said 20 or 20 plus years, but for 20 years or so.
Did he say anything about the money?
He told me that he had been stealing money.
Did he have a particular phrase about what he had done to you?
Shit me up.
He said he shit you up.
Shit me up or shit me off or something like that, but I think it was he'd shit me up.
And he said that he admitted to you he had been stealing client money?
Yes, sir.
So he confessed that to you, is that
He
correct?
said he had shit a lot of people up.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 313 in this in-camera hearing. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
I think this is the original of that $225,000 fee check written in the gentleman's case directly to Richard Alexander Murdaugh, Esquire.
Is that your signature on it?
It is.
How did that conversation end?
I don't remember exactly how it ended, Mr. Waters. I was so mad. I mean, I'd loved the guy for so long. And I probably still loved him a little bit, but I was so mad. And I don't remember how it ended. I left. I mean, I asked him, how did I not know these things or see these things? And we talked. He was concerned about me getting my $192,000 back. Seemed concerned. Told him I wasn't worried about that. At that point, I wanted to make sure there wasn't something else.
This was a little bit before lunch on September 4th.
Yes, sir.
We
didn't leave. We didn't. I'm sure I yelled at the beginning, or at least raised my voice, but I didn't leave yelling and screaming and hollering. We didn't fight. But I left, and I wasn't happy.
Where'd you go after you left? Do you remember?
I rode through Hampton. Actually, we threw Hardee's and grabbed something for a bite of lunch on the road and headed back to Columbia where I live.
That day, did you hear anything else about Alec?
I did.
About how long after you left Alec did you hear something?
I had stopped in my office in Bamberg or at the post office to pick something up, and I was somewhere between Bamberg and Columbia when I got a call. It was either from Randy or Lee Cope, but I believe it was Lee Cope.
And what were you informed?
That Alec had been shot in the head and that he was on a helicopter going to the hospital in Savannah. And I think it was Savannah Hospital, but they said the hospital, but I believe they said Savannah Hospital.
What'd you do in response to that information?
What the devil's going on? I thought he'd tried to kill himself. I didn't think he was suicidal when I left, but when I heard that, I thought he'd tried to kill himself.
Did you go to the scene, or did you return back home?
I went back home.
Did you try to reach out to Alec after that?
I did not. I talked to his brother Randy, I think some that same day and some on the next day. But by that time, frankly, all this had, for lack of a better term, blown up to where I didn't think I'd be able to talk to Alec. And I don't know that I wanted to.
Have you had a conversation with him since?
I have not spoken to him since that morning at Alameda.
Have you had any other communication with him?
He's texted me once or twice, to which I've responded something very generic, like I'm thinking about your family. And I think he may have written a letter, some short letter that, frankly, I turned over to my lawyers.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 351. See if you recognize that.
I do.
And what is that?
This is one of the texts that I received from Alec, and my response.
Is that a number you previously had recognized being Alex?
I don't know if I'd ever seen that number before, but it's not the normal cell phone number that I would have used to contact him or he to contact me. I mean, there was sometimes he'd tell me he was calling me from the phone in his car. Sometimes it would be a number I didn't recognize.
Is that the text on the screen there?
Yes, sir.
Does it say, "So sorry for all the havoc I created for you. I'd do anything to make it right"?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. That's all the questions for this in-camera hearing, Your Honor.
By the defense.
We have no questions, Your Honor.